sometimes when things don't work out, that could be like God's way of looking out for you, because Chris would have been a terrible partner. He would have been a terrible husband. So thank God he showed his true leprechaun, clown, elf-like colors before you walked down that aisle and said yes to this idiot of a man, okay? I don't like the fact that Emma's parents didn't know she was going through that. And I think what bothered me about this is I start to wonder, why do people adopt children in an area that is not diverse? Specifically adopting minority children, children that are not white, but then they live in predominantly white areas. Like, I don't understand what that's about. And I don't think people get that when you grow up in an environment and nobody looks like you, and all the guys in high school or middle school are constantly dating women that don't look like you, or passing you up for women that don't look like you, how are you supposed to feel? Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I will be talking about Love is Blind episode 9. It took me a while to get this episode out because I had a lot that I wanted to say. So let's just jump right back in. So this episode starts with Chris and Jessica, and it's basically a continuation of this ridiculous conversation that they were having in episode 8. So Chris is basically saying he doesn't know if it's there for him, and that sex is a big thing, so he doesn't know if he can get past that with Jessica. I told myself I wouldn't get annoyed in this review, but Chris makes my blood boil, guys. Like, oh my God. He says she's such a great person. He says he cares about her, and he knows how she feels about him. So he was thinking, well, could they get past this? But now he's saying that he doesn't want to fake something, and that he needs to be, I guess, true to himself. He also says that he's been thinking about what it would be like with his number 2 person as well, which you guys know is Bree. He says it would probably be up in flames, I guess, if him and Bree got together. He says these are just thoughts in his head. So not only is Chris basically telling Jessica that he's not, sexually attracted to her, he decides to tell Jessica about the fact that he's also thinking about Bree, and then also commenting on what a relationship with Bree would be like, talking about how it would be up in flames. If this man, it's just so insensitive. Not only are you basically breaking this girl's heart, telling her you're not attracted to her, you think this is also an appropriate time to talk about Bree. Like, sometimes I wonder if these men do this for the cameras, because I actually can't believe, it's so hard to think that men like this exist. Especially men that look like Chris acting these ways. I'm just trying to understand how a man that looks like a leprechaun acts this way. Because I've seen all the posts that have been going on. They've been clowning Chris, as they should, because he's a leprechaun, he's an elf, he's a joke, he's a clown. This is crazy behavior. So Jessica basically says nothing while this is happening, because Jessica cannot believe the words that are coming out of Chris's mouth. Just like us as viewers can't believe this shit, right? I can tell Jessica is like, am I dreaming? This cannot be real. This leprechaun is not saying these words to me. She's sitting here like, no, I must be tweaking, because this is not reality. She's stunned. Eventually, Jessica says this is really hard for her to hear. And, even Chris's response to what she said, you can tell he has no empathy for her, maybe no empathy in general. I don't even think this is about Jessica. I don't think Chris has empathy. I don't even know if he knows what that word means. Chris says something like, oh, I figured this would be hard for you. He says he basically can't see long term, but that how he felt about her was true, which doesn't even make sense to me. Jessica starts crying, and even seeing her crying over this man freaking annoyed me. Jessica says she feels really stupid, and I can understand how Jessica feels in this moment, because she really thought this whole thing was real. And it's almost like Chris, that conversation she's had with him, Chris is like, oh, psych, none of it was real. It almost feels like you're playing a game on her. So I can understand how Jessica's feeling, because she's just like, did you just fake everything in the beginning? Let me remind you guys, Chris is the same guy that when he saw Jessica during the reveal, and even while they were in Cabo, All he could ever say about Jessica was that she was perfect, how perfect she was, and how he couldn't believe that a connection in the pods could lead to a physical one, and that he was so happy with how she looked and that she was just his type. Like, it's crazy. So Jessica is sitting here thinking, where is this coming from? You know? She basically says she doesn't understand how he brought up her not working out every day being an issue. She says that she works in the hospital every day. And in my head, I'm like, yeah, Jessica, you have a real big, important, essential worker job. And this man is mad that you don't have time to go to Pilates every day. You can't make this shit up. This shit could only happen on Love is Blind, guys. This shit could only happen. Because what? When I say men have the audacity, oh my God. Mind you, this man has a cold plunge in his home or outside his apartment thinking he's cool. Jessica's out here saving lives. Oh my God, this man is so, and Jessica also makes a very good point and says that she was very upfront in the pods, that she was not the type of girl to be going to Pilates every day. So in her mind, she's like, how is this a problem now? They had this conversation in the pods. Chris knew that Brie was the type of girl to be doing those things with her, and Jessica was not. And he chose Jessica anyway. So this doesn't make any sense. It's a cop-out. Like, no, this is crazy. Jessica says that this makes her feel like shit because she's like, she feels like she's not good enough. Like her body's not good enough. It's crazy. And she says that 3 days ago, she was so sure about him. So she feels like this just came out of left field. Jessica basically says if her body is not good enough for him, that she's not going to beg somebody to love her. And in my head, I'm like, yeah, that's right. And Jessica basically, it sounds like she's going to walk away, as she should. We see Jessica say to the cameras, love was blind for her and that she was madly in love with Chris. She's crying and says that she's hurt, but that she will be okay. And in my head, I'm like, Jessica, honey, you dodged a bullet. Like, as much as Chris was so mean in this delivery and said very unnecessary shit, you dodged a bullet. And I'm a firm believer that sometimes when things don't work out, that could be like God's way of looking out for you, because Chris would have been a terrible partner. He would have been a terrible husband. So thank God he showed his true leprechaun, clown, elf-like colors before you walked down that aisle and said yes to this idiot of a man. Okay. Think about it like that. I know obviously in this moment, Jessica is feeling, very emotional, but I'm sure her watching this back, she's probably like, thank God he would have been a terrible partner. Terrible. Chris is telling the cameras he can't do it if he doesn't want to have sex with his partner. He says he's disappointed at how it turned out, then mentions that he might connect better with Brie. He then says if Jessica can't be with him because of the way he feels, it is what it is. And in my head, I'm like, why would Jessica want to be with you after everything you just said to her? He's still trying to make it sound like Jessica was the one that ended things with him. Like he hasn't done anything wrong because Jessica doesn't want to still make it work. Make what work? Make what work, Chris? Honestly, I'm like, get this leprechaun off my screen. Like, it's actually so infuriating. All right, then we go to Brie and Connor. We see that they're making dinner together. Connor is putting plastic in the microwave. Brie is getting on him like, you are going to poison us both. Connor's saying how he only puts it in for 20 seconds. And in my head, I'm like, you're definitely not supposed to put plastic in the microwave, but okay. So Brie comments and says that she could see Connor being like the house dad of a fraternity. Connor is like, I'm confused because, Brie's obviously mentioned this fraternity thing many times now. And Connor's like, I was never in a fraternity. Like, what are you talking about? And then she asks, why doesn't he do it now that he's in his 30s? And obviously she's saying this like in a patronizing kind of way. And Connor says something, basically says that sometimes Brie can be a little bit mean. And Brie kind of apologizes and she's like, okay, I need to be a little bit nicer. But guys, I don't like Brie. And I also don't really like the way she, I feel like she plays around with people and she thinks it's like funny or like to tease people and be sarcastic and mean, but that's not really my sense of humor. Like, I don't really get Brie. And I think that Connor is also kind of getting annoyed with her. Like, there's something she says that to me is very unnecessary. Like, you don't need to joke in that way. Okay, we see Alex and Ashley and they're basically golfing. Once again, we see Ashley telling the cameras that her sexual frustrations, we see Ashley talking about sex again, talking about how she's sexually frustrated, but there's a chance that, you know, her needs will be met tonight. And then she's like, maybe my needs were already met. And at this point, I'm confused because I did see Ashley say in an interview, I don't know if it was with the Veil Files or something, that she got a very sexualized edit. And I believe Ashley, because at a certain point, I'm like, did you guys just decide to put every single time she was talking about sex into the show? I know Ashley talked about other things. Like, at this point, it's a little strange. I don't know why they decided to give her this kind of edit, but let me know what you guys think about that. Do you actually think Ashley is as sexual as she's been portrayed to be? Because I'm like, God damn. I feel like every time we see Ashley, she's talking about sex. Then we go back to Christine and Vic. Vic is showing her the building that he teaches in and takes her into the classroom. They then go to Christine's hometown in like a rural part of Ohio. Christine says she used to be very insecure about where she came from and the fact that she kind of grew up in humble beginnings. So the fact that she's taking Vic here is like a very big deal because she doesn't really show anybody her hometown. Yeah, it seemed like it went really well. They were feeding horses and, you know, she says that she feels really comfortable around Vic, and you know, I can just tell that these two have like a pretty good connection. Like this is a couple that I am rooting for, even though we barely, unfortunately, have seen them this season. All right, Amber meets Jordan's mom and sisters, and this went really well. They call Amber beautiful. The sister asks if Jordan has met Amber's daughter, and Jordan says no, he hasn't, and that he's pretty nervous, but you know, he just hopes that she will like him. And in my head, I'm like, she's only 7 years old. Like, I think that she will like Jordan, but you never know with kids. I can understand why he's nervous about that. Jordan's family seems so warm and nice. I didn't expect anything less because I like Jordan and Amber, and I feel like, you know, Amber fit right in. They were very welcoming. I thought that this went really well. This is another couple that I am still rooting for, guys. We haven't seen any major red flags, and so I'm hoping that they make it. I really, really am. I like both of them a lot. Okay, then we go back to Devontae and Brittany. Devontae cooked dinner. They're joking around with each other a little bit. Brittany once again brings up that she doesn't feel as secure as she did with him in the pods. She says he never tells her she's pretty. Devontae says in Cabo, when Brittany brought up not calling her pretty, he says he then didn't want to say it because he said that he felt like if he had started saying these things because she said something to him, he thought that it would somehow feel ingenuine. I understand where Devontae's coming from, right? Because it's like once somebody's telling you they want something from you, right, that you don't naturally do or haven't been doing, you don't want to just start doing that because they told you. You know, he wants it to feel genuine. So I get that. And then he mentions about how he doesn't do physical touch because he says he's putting up walls so that his behavior doesn't come across as forced. And personally, I think that they're overthinking it. And I think that Brittany is picking up on a deeper sense that Devontae's just not into her. And I don't think this is just about him not calling her pretty. I think that there's probably other things going on that's making Brittany feel like, you know, something is off, because something is off, right? Like Devontae expected Brittany to be white. Okay. So I hate bringing this up again, but we can't forget that, right? That like he didn't expect her to be a woman of color, as he said, right? Because he doesn't normally date women of color. And that is fundamentally the overarching problem here, where maybe he just doesn't really feel that physical connection like he should be. And Brittany's picking up on that. Brittany says she won't project her hurt onto him, you know, and says that maybe she has some insecurities she also has to kind of work on, and she starts to tear up. And I just hate to even see this because I don't necessarily think Brittany is insecure, guys. Like everybody is insecure to a certain extent, but like, let's be real. Somebody that you're marrying, you want them to find you attractive. You want to feel desired by your partner. That does not mean you're insecure. It does not at all. You want to have somebody tell you you're beautiful or that you look nice. And I don't think that's a lot to ask, especially from someone that you're going to be marrying. So I feel for Brittany because I think that she's even being too hard on herself. Like these things that you're asking of Devontae, the fact that you're even saying these things is because she's picking up on an overarching feeling that he's not attracted to her, and she's not wrong, you know? So yeah. And then Devontae says she's very pretty and that she has a natural beauty without makeup, which I agree. Brittany's stunning, you know, but the fact that she has to have these conversations with him to even get that out of him, Brittany needs to run. Like, I don't even know why she's still here with Devontae. I do not. Like, I feel like when you want to marry someone, they need to make you feel good. You want to feel good with that person. And I don't think Brittany feels good with Devontae. If anything, I think Devontae makes her feel insecure. So why is Brittany still here, guys? This is what I'm asking at this point. This is a couple that I unfortunately am not rooting for. I think that Brittany deserves a lot better than Devontae. And I hope to God that they say no to the altar. I hope that Brittany comes to her senses, or maybe Devontae does. I don't want to see this couple go through. I do not, because I don't think Brittany will be happy. And yeah, she deserves better than Devontae. So that's that. All right, we see that Chris and Connor talk. And Chris is basically telling Connor he doesn't know if the physical connection is there with Jessica. Connor is like, you're attracted to her, are you not? Chris says she's beautiful, and I'm confused because I'm like, I just knew Chris would not tell Connor the exact things that he said to Jessica and what really led to this breakup, right? He's trying to make it sound like, you know, Jessica's done with him and he doesn't really know why. Shocker, right? He didn't tell Connor about the exact things he said to Jessica. Like, come on now. Connor is trying to say he should reach out to her and try not to really give up on, you know, Jessica at this point. And in my head, I'm like, Chris is done. And it's not even about Chris being done. Jessica is done, thank God, with this leprechaun. All right, we see Ashley meet Alex's mom for the first time. We find out that his mom drives commercial trucks and likes to travel a lot. So, you know, his mom asks if Ashley rides motorcycles. And we see Ashley's mom say that experiences matter more than things. So we can clearly see where Alex gets his, you know, affliction to want to move around a lot and not be in one place. His mom definitely seems like she has like a wild side to her. The fact that she asked if Ashley rides motorcycles, you know, she sounds like a pretty, somebody that really enjoys experiences and getting out and moving a lot. So we see Ashley's mom and Alex have a conversation. And Ashley asks Alex's mom about Alex's previous relationships. Alex's mom says Alex gave his ex more chances than he should have. Ashley says it's hard to rehash the timelines of what he's done. Ashley says that she is concerned about coaching, about Alex coaching, and him possibly having to walk away from that. Alex's mom gets emotional, and she says she would love for him to coach because he has so much to offer. She's honest with Ashley and says that Alex needs something that's not so structured, like he has to be in the office all the time, that doesn't really fit who Alex is. I thought that this was a very important conversation and a very interesting point that Alex's mom made. And it made me think that Alex and Ashley will not work. Because you see how Ashley's dad is, right? He says he was a divorce attorney for years. Like, you can tell that Ashley wants a man that's going to provide that financial structure, right? And her saying, Alex's mom saying that Alex is someone who doesn't want to do the 9 to 5. He's not into structure. I cannot understand a world where that would be good enough for Ashley. Especially considering us meeting her family and seeing how she grew up with an enormous amount of structure. And clearly, you know, her father was the patriarch, right? He even said it. He was the provider. Who knows if Ashley's mom was even, like, the situation with Ashley's mom and if she was even working at all. But long story short, she's used to seeing a man provide and play that role. And I get the sense that Ashley's looking for a man to play that role. And basically, Alex's mom was telling Ashley that Alex is not that man. Okay, like he's gonna want to run around. And I think with all that running around, it doesn't necessarily, you know, having that life of wanting to be on the go does not equate to financial stability, unfortunately. The only way it could equate to that is if Alex came for money and didn't have to worry about money so he could travel. But that's not the case, right? And let's keep it a buck. Like, as much as Alex enjoys coaching, how much does coaching pay? If you want to have a family with this person, they have to do more than be coaching, you know, men's soccer or boys soccer. That's not going to fly. So just based off of Alex's mom explaining how Alex is, this relationship will not work. And these two should also not go to the altar because that would be diabolical. Emma and Mike. Mike meets Emma's parents and two sisters for the first time. One of Emma's sisters is really honest about the fact that she wanted children, but sometimes there are days where she thinks of a world, like another reality where she was living and didn't have children. So I picked up on the fact that Emma's sister has days where she's like, why did I have children? I don't want to say she necessarily regrets it, but it was giving like slight regret, guys. I was just like, didn't love that, but that's how she feels. And I appreciate Emma's sister for being honest with Emma. I think that that's really, really important because I don't think enough people understand what it takes to have kids. And, you know, so her sister makes a very good point, and Emma's sister says that she always wanted children and still feels like she has days where she's like, why did I have children? So Emma's sister basically says that for Emma, you know, she can't imagine what it would be like for Emma, who says she doesn't want children, to have a child and possibly feel like she regrets it. She doesn't want that to be something that happens to Emma. And I thought that that was a very good point. So she's trying to tell Emma, like, you know, having kids is not an easy thing. And even with her wanting them, she's still kind of like, it can be a lot for her. So I thought that this was a very honest thing for Emma's sister to say. So Emma's parents mentioned that they were under the impression, I think the mom specifically, Emma's mom, says that, you know, Emma was a hard no on kids for a long time. So Emma's mom almost looks surprised that Emma is even considering this, right? Because they're aware that Mike definitely wants children. And, you know, Emma is now saying she's open to children. But even hearing Emma's mom say that she was a hard no, part of me is like, if you were a hard no for so long, how do you join Love is Blind, get in the pods, and all of a sudden you're choosing somebody who definitely guys, it makes no sense. It actually makes no sense. So it is what it is. I mean, we'll see what happens, but this is another couple that should be a no. Okay. She mentions, so Emma mentions not knowing if she will pass down the birthmarks. She then says growing up, she went through a lot of tough mental blocks, where she was comparing herself to other people. She says she doesn't want to bring a kid into that. And I was thinking, what does she mean by this? And there was a lot of things going through my mind during this conversation because Emma was saying a little, well, how do you say it? It's almost like she was saying she wasn't saying much, but she was saying a lot, if that makes sense. Like, as I could hear her talk, I was like, I think that she was alluding to growing up in an area that was not very diverse and having to also bring her kid into that environment, right? Because she doesn't just talk about having to, being afraid of passing down the birthmarks. She's also talking about what she went through mentally growing up and how she felt different. And I don't think her feeling different was just because of those birthmarks. I think she's talking about growing up in a predominantly white area. Emma's parents basically say that they didn't know that she felt that way, which I was like, how do you not know that? But okay. Then they mention that she would come home from school and go to her room and basically not talk to them. This goes to show that, like, I guess Emma didn't really open up to them about how she felt. She says she basically says that she wasn't bullied, but that what she was going through was really all mental. And then she mentions that dating in Wisconsin was also hard. She mentioned she wanted to be chosen and that sometimes she just wasn't chosen. So basically, I want to play a TikTok that I found because I had so many thoughts when I saw this scene, and there were a lot of things that bugged me about this interaction with Emma's parents and Emma. And this girl articulated what I was thinking really, really well. So I'm just going to play this TikTok real quick.
Follow me for a second here. The conversation that Vic and Christine had about race relations did wonders for Loving versus Virginia PR. But it also correlates to us seeing Emma interact with her family, because I'm gonna be real, I know people who are adopted. If people raise you, them is the only people you ever known. That's your mama, that's your daddy, that's your sister, that's your brother, right? But it's a clear example on how when white people adopt children of color of any race, It can go either really well or really bad, and it really just depends on the white family or the white mom or the white dad's intentionality with understanding that we're not the same color. The reason I said, yo, that conversation between Vic and Christine did wonders for Loving versus VA PR, and I know Nick and Olandria are happy because their backs have to be tired, is because in America, at least, we see color. The whole I don't see color, that's a red flag to me if you tell me you don't see color. It's clear Emma's family is a we don't see color family, because what do you mean your child came home every day and did not talk to y'all and you was just like, okay? What do you mean that you never thought that your Chinese daughter, who also has a very visible birthmark, was not having issues in middle school? Do we all not remember middle school and how fucking weird kids are? And even during the conversation, they seemed to be so bewildered that her scar affected her, and they didn't even touch the fact about her being Chinese. Like, the bitch literally sat there and said, when I was in Wisconsin, I just felt so different. The because I'm Chinese was silent. The because I'm trying to date white boys was silent. But everyone who is not white, and honestly, I feel like the white people with fucking sense got what she was saying. And it's like her parents were still so oblivious. And I think because, I'm not saying they don't love their child. They clearly love their child. The fact that she said Emma wrote all these letters to her grandmother, like, clearly there's love there. But like, also, I think because Chinese people are not just Chinese people, Asian people in general, when you look at them in America, are seen as the example minority. White people might think that they're not going to face the same discrimination that maybe like adopting a black child or a clearly Hispanic child is going to like garner. And that's not the case. Like, that's fucking not the case. If you're not white, you're going to stick out like a sore fucking thumb. And at the top, when I was on here screaming about low racial self-esteem, like, you keep finding these people who have low racial self-esteem because of their upbringing, because of what they've been exposed to, and because of what they've not been exposed to, right? Like, her saying she didn't want her children to go through what she's been through, I think it has to do with her scar. But as we know, a simple genetic testing situation could help to know if they would have any issues. Because I want to go ahead and say this part as well. Emma absolutely has her own reasons for being hesitant about bringing children into the world. I absolutely don't think her not wanting her kids to potentially feel different doesn't all the way have to do with her scar. I think it has to do with the fact that she knows she lives in white spaces, and her children would at some level, you know, Asians be, you could usually tell a Asian, just like you would tell a Blasian child. So
okay, so what I wanted to say is I 100% agree with this lady in this TikTok, and she said things that were going through my mind when I heard this. I don't like the fact that Emma's parents didn't know she was going through that. And I think what bothered me about this is I start to wonder, why do people adopt children in an area that is not diverse? Specifically adopting minority children that are not white, but then they live in predominantly white areas. Like, I don't understand what that's about. And I don't think people get that when you grow up in an environment and nobody looks like you, and all the guys in high school or middle school are constantly dating women that don't look like you, or passing you up for women that don't look like you, how are you supposed to feel? Because I think people keep commenting on how they keep bringing people on these shows with low racial self-esteem and all this stuff. But I don't think people understand that as a child, especially growing up, every girl wants to be chosen, wants to be picked. And you pick up on patterns, right? And things you see around you. Kids are like sponges. So Emma is Asian, right? But this could happen to a girl that's Indian, a girl that's black. Anybody that's a minority growing up in a predominantly white area is normally not going to grow up with an enormous amount of racial self-esteem. Like, I don't know if people understand this. So Emma's parents seem lovely. Even when they were talking about Emma, they were tearing up. And I'm not trying to drag them, but I do not think that you should be, as white people, I don't think that you should be adopting children that are minorities in an area that is predominantly white. Let me know if you guys disagree, especially if you do not plan on being aware of how your adopted child, who is a minority, would feel growing up in an area where nobody looks like them. Like, guys, I don't want to be mean, but I'm like, this is common sense. Like, anybody would understand. And it's not just about Emma's scars, because what she was saying, I guarantee you, was not just about her scars. And it's crazy because not only is she Asian, right, in a predominantly white area, she then had birthmarks that also made her feel different. So imagine what that was like for like little Emma growing up in that environment. Anybody with common sense would understand that she had a hard time. So for her parents to sit there and say that they had no idea, they didn't want to have an idea, because that's crazy. Like, I mean, she came home from school and she just wouldn't talk to you guys and you didn't think that was strange? That is really hard for me to believe. Like, come on now. So I don't like it. You know, you saw the scene with Christine and Vic, I think in the previous episode, where Christine acknowledged that she grew up in a predominantly rural area that was not diverse. And so Christine and Vic are already saying, okay, Christine is aware that they're going to have a biracial child, so she does not want to live in an area that is not diverse. This is common sense, guys. Like, this is, and I don't know if they don't think that this also equates to an Asian person growing up in an area that's predominantly white. Anybody that's a minority in a predominantly white area will be affected by these same things. The fact that her parents were not aware of that, disappointing. It was disappointing. I didn't like that at all, because it's giving you just ignored that. I cannot believe that they had no clue that Emma might have had a hard time. Let me know your guys' thoughts, but I'm going to stand 10 toes. You should not be adopting a child that is a minority in a predominantly Caucasian area if you do not plan on at least acknowledging how that child could struggle. That is the bare minimum. Even growing up in that environment is tough. I don't recommend it. I personally don't think you should do it at all. But if you do plan on adopting a child and putting them in an environment with a bunch of people that don't look like them, the least you can do is check on that child and make sure that they're okay and have conversations. And I mean, come on. That's the least you can do. So yeah, that bothered me. Let me know what you guys thought about that, but I'm not going to get too into that. All right, then we go back to Bree and Connor. Bree meets Connor's parents and sisters. They say that they look good together. His mom asks what it's been like living together. Bree says it's going well, but that she hasn't lived with anyone before, so that's been new for her. They ask how it was seeing Connor's house. You know, Bree refers to Connor as being like a boy. And yeah, I don't really like the way Bree talks about Connor, because I feel like she, you know, sneakily kind of demeans him a little bit. Like, she's not referring to him as a man. She's referring to him as a boy, even in front of his parents. I just don't like how she talks about him. I don't think she respects him at all. So Connor's dad asks what surprised her about Connor. She says managing her emotions has been hard, but Connor has done a really great job of helping her emotionally throughout this process. His parents seem to really like Bree a lot more than I like Bree. That's all I can say about that. All right, so then we go back to Alex and Ashley. Ashley is asking Alex about his previous relationships. This is probably the third time we've had a conversation regarding Alex's previous relationships. There's something up here. I feel like Ashley is almost suspicious of Alex. I don't know if this suspicion has happened because of how Ashley's dad was asking him so many questions, but I'm like, I feel like Ashley keeps talking about this man's previous relationships. This is what I've noticed. So I just wonder why she's so hung up on his relationship history, because there's so many other things I would be hung up in regards to Alex, mostly involving his job and all the moving around. But she's really caught up in this relationship history. So she wants to know if he has a relationship with any of his exes now. He says only one. And Ashley wants to know when he last saw her. And Alex says he hooked up with her in September. Alex says Ashley is surprised. And she's like, okay, that's not that long ago. Okay, but Alex says he was seeing someone he met in Cleveland at the gym, but that wasn't serious and didn't go anywhere. Ashley is like, her wheels are turning as he's talking. And she's realizing that the timelines are making no sense. So she's kind of, you know, pushing back on some of his timelines, and he's trying to like But there's something about Alex, like even as he's talking to her, like he's a liar. Alex is a liar, guys. And I just hope that Ashley can see through this. I feel like she's starting to, because she's asking a lot of questions. And one thing that liars don't like, they don't like being questioned. Alex doesn't like being questioned. Whenever he's under the fuel, you can see that he's uncomfortable because he's a liar. So Ashley says cheating for her is a non-negotiable. She says she was cheated on by her ex, and that's part of why the relationship ended. Alex confirms that he would never cheat on her. Okay. I mean, that's what Alex says, but once again, guys, I don't believe anything that comes out of Alex's mouth. Considering the fact that he was trying to or talk to Brittany the way he was a couple episodes prior, I don't trust him. Okay, so we see all the couples meet along with the girls from the pods that didn't get engaged. So this is the first time we get to see like everybody meet up. We see Bri, Emma, Ashley, Brittany, and Amber, and they're all talking. They're calling Chris delusional because they heard about the breakup between Chris and Jessica. Bri says Chris sent her a DM, like an obscure DM that said, "Oh yeah," or something. The girls are all like shocked and they're like, really? Like, what, Chris is reaching out to you? She says that he also sent her a friend request and that he said to call him. Bri says that she didn't engage. And Emma tells the girls that Chris bought followers online. She says all his followers are random accounts that are not like real people. Am I surprised? No. I mean, let's keep it real, guys. Chris is so insecure. I could see that. Okay, Bri is basically saying that the first night Chris broke up with Jessica, he went to a strip club and that he had a stripper on his lap. She says Chris told Connor he goes for 21 to 25-year-olds. Amber literally says Chris is a pussy ass bitch. Guys, when I tell you I love Amber because that's exactly what Chris is. Amber then goes on to say that Chris is too short to be this cocky. And all the girls start laughing and I'm like, exactly, Amber, clock it, because he is. Like, come on. Chris basically ends up showing up smiling with his annoying ass smile. Jessica also arrives. She looks amazing, like always. The women compliment her body, and Priyanka also ends up showing up looking amazing. We find out Priyanka was in the same friend group as Alex. Jessica tells Amber, Christine, and Kia what Chris said to her. So we see Jessica now telling some of the girls exactly what Chris said when they broke up. The girls are so shocked, like all of us viewers were so shocked because Chris is fucking crazy. And we see Chris in the bathroom. He still has his mic on and he's saying that Bri is so hot and that he doesn't he doesn't care about Connor. And he was like, what is Connor going to do? Beat me up? And then he starts laughing. So Chris clearly doesn't respect Connor. What else is new? You know who else doesn't respect Connor? Bri. So at the end of the day, maybe Bri and Chris deserve each other. But I'll be real. As much as I don't like Bri, I hope to God she doesn't end up going for Chris. So we shall see. Amber asks Chris if he thinks he got... we see Amber and she asked Chris if he thinks he will get another hot doctor. Before Chris could even answer, she walks away. Because Amber is like, we already know you're not going to get another hot doctor, Chris. Guess what else Chris is not going to get? He's definitely doesn't date all these girls that do Pilates every day. He's a leprechaun and he's a clown, okay? Chris is now talking to Bri, Ashley, and Priyanka. Chris says he needs someone that does Pilates. Ashley says that Jessica is stunning. Bri says it's about discipline. What the fuck is Bri talking about? Am I surprised she said this? No. But really? Really, Bri? Whatever. Chris says it's about pheromones when you're having sex with someone. That he tried, but it wasn't there. He says the sex was the worst shit he ever had in his life. He's referring to the sex that he had with Jessica, guys. And once he said this, Priyanka, Bri, and Ashley should have all left. That is so disrespectful. So disrespectful. The fact that those three girls were still sitting there, smiling with him, laughing, kikiing, that is so embarrassing. And this is exactly why specifically Bri is getting dragged. I saw an interview with her saying she didn't expect people to be so mean. They should have been more mean. Because why are Brie, Ashley, and Priyanka need to go somewhere. Why would you still be in this conversation at this point? The man is so disrespectful. What do you mean it was the worst you've ever had in your life? Why do you need to say that? Why? None of them even called him out on it. Oh, God. We see Chris and Brie and they have a conversation. Brie basically says to Chris she's on no one's side because they're all navigating things and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, huh? Of course you're on no one's side. Of course you want to play like, you know, you're in the middle and you don't want to like rock the boat because you want to leave things open with Chris because you're a pygmy and you're an idiot. Because if anybody could hear what Chris has done to Jessica and the things he's just said about Jessica in the previous conversation, you should be on Jessica's side. This is not a good person. I'm like, really, Brie? You want to be chosen this bad by a leprechaun? This is crazy, guys. So Chris basically says Connor is submissive. He says he would have turned up the notch with Brie in the pods. And if that had happened, that Connor wouldn't even exist, right? He wouldn't even have had a chance with Brie. So he's still disrespecting Connor, not shocked at all. As he's saying this, Chris is smiling, that annoying ass smile. Chris says Connor will say yes at the altar and that he will do the dishes and clean the house. So he's basically trying to say Connor is a little bitch, okay? And that he's gonna marry her and that he'll be doing all the house chores. Disrespectful. And as he's saying these things, do you think Brie is standing up for Connor? No, of course not. She's sitting here slurping her drink being like, oh, really? Really? You can't make this shit up, guys. Chris asks Brie if the sex with Connor is the best she's ever had. Brie says no, but it's good. Another disrespectful thing to say. It's disrespectful for Brie to have even answered that question. Why are you talking to another man who was your number 2 pick in the pods about the sex life you have with your now fiance? Diabolical, guys. Chris says he gives women the best sex they've ever had. No, you don't, Chris. No, you don't. And one thing I have to say, any man that actually gives women the best sex they've ever had will never actually say that. So that's how you know sex with Chris will be the worst you've ever had in your life. Because any man that's actually good in the bedroom will never go around parading how good he is in the bedroom. That's so stupid. It's just like how rich people usually don't flaunt their wealth. Come on now. That's crazy. He says this is important to him. He says Brie needs someone more dominant and that he wants to be with her. He calls her hot and says Brie looks like the girl he would have proposed to. And that's basically how this episode ends, guys. This was a tough watch. My blood was boiling and I had to keep reminding myself, this is a reality TV show. Calm down. I had to do some meditation after this episode because I was so frustrated. Please let me know what you guys think. And the last thing I'll end this with is wedding predictions because we know the weddings are going to come up in the next episode tomorrow, which I will be reviewing. So just to start, I think Ashley and Alex will be a no. If they say yes, that will be to Ashley's demise. Alex is a liar and a fraud. Brie and Connor, I hope to God it's a no. And it's sad because I really like Connor. I do. But Brie is not his person. Because the way she sat while he's just been disrespected and she doesn't care, that would be a nightmare. So I hope they say no. So Ashley and Alex should be a no. That's what I'm predicting. Brie and Connor will be a no. Emma and Mike will be a no. We all know why, guys. They're just misaligned on this kid thing. It wouldn't make sense to say yes, in my opinion. Devontae and Brittany will be a no. Devontae is still wishing that he got with a white girl. You know, he still can't get over it. Christine and Vic will be a yes, if I had to guess. And I think Amber and Jordan will be a yes. Christine and Vic and Amber and Jordan, after watching these 9 episodes, are the only couples that could possibly be saying yes at the end of this. If any of these other 4 couples say yes, trust and believe that by the reunion, I predict they'll be broken up. Let me know what you guys think about your predictions and what you thought about this episode. If you guys made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.